find the artist that writer is developing. So you can do that by using Jackster, All Credits, whatever, or even I use my PRO, like PRS, the back end of that. You can see who's written on everything. So then see who else that big writer is writing for that are kind of earlier on in their artist career.
Got it. Hey everyone, Daniel here from Dark Label Music. If you are a working pop music producer, then pay close attention to this interview because my business partner, Aaron, is going to share some wisdom he's picked up along the way as a multi-platinum pop music producer working with major labels. We talk about building up your catalog, when to explore publishing deals, and why it's imperative that as a music producer, you build a great network of songwriters around you. That has led Aaron to some of his most successful projects. I'm excited to finally have Aaron on the channel more often. Despite what some people may think, Dark Label Music is not just me. It takes an entire team with different backgrounds to truly help develop independent producers like you watching this and get things up and running. So more from him in the future, and enjoy the video.
Initially, when I was coming up, very early on, I was always frustrated by building catalog because I thought I was wasting my time. I thought I was just building songs for them to not go anywhere. And if they weren't placed within 2-3 months, I would always be, it's not that they were a waste of time, but it didn't feel like there was much. It wasn't so much where X equals Y, it was kind of X equals unknown. And that's something that I wasn't at peace with at the time. It's only when a few years on that a lot of those records started to get cut and placed that I really saw the value of catalog and see it as an asset building, just a way to build assets essentially. And that's something I really encourage like younger producers to do, because you'll find yourself in a position after a few decent cuts and a few good sessions where people are approaching you saying, hey, I need songs for X artist, or I need this X, and you've got 3 days. You're not going to write an album in 3 days. You're not going to write a bunch of great records in 3 days. But if you've spent the years creating great records, then you're going to have records to get placed. And I think that's for me was the perspective shift that I needed to have for me to really value putting in the time on purely spec sessions that were with great writers, just to build great catalog. And then it's just an asset that you can leverage later on in your career.
Talk about the thing about the input that you put in doesn't always equal the output with that side of things.
Yeah, for sure. I suppose my initial comparison to this is schooling, early days, and then also a lot of like kind of corporate-y jobs as well, where you know that I input X, I'm going to receive Y, whether that's a salary, whether that's better results if I work harder, whatever it is, right? With music, you can forget that there's a lot of security that comes with that complex, with that kind of situation as well. You know that if I work harder, I'm going to get more. If I don't work as hard, I'm probably going to get less. And it's quite an easy thing to wrap your head around. In music, unfortunately, that flips on its head. You can work 10 times as hard and see no results. You can not be doing much for a few months, and then 4 records come through from your previous catalog, and you're like, okay, that's great. So it really does just require a whole perspective shift, and it's just about consistently turning up, putting in the work, and relying on your own abilities that you know you have as creative, relying on the fact that you are working so hard in a positive trajectory, and to let that carry you when we're looking at that side of the industry.
And what about like pub deals and like when to explore that?
I think publishing deals are really personal. There's a few things you get from like a traditional co-publishing deal. The first thing is creative access. If you don't have a huge network of songwriters, of producers, of kind of, you're not in sessions regularly, then that's something a good publisher can do for you very well. Equally, they're also a bit of a bank. They can kind of bankroll you and at least fund your early part of your career, which is often the toughest for a producer or a writer. In return for that, they're going to want a large share of your publishing, and they'll take 50% usually of whatever you create in that period and whatever you've created before, and then kind of retain the rights to collect on that for X amount of years after, depending on your deal. So I think it's a really personal thing, and I have a lot of discussions with writers and producers about it, because equally you can stay unpublished if you can afford to do so, and if you have the network and the ability to network to build your kind of session base and your base of writers, so that you don't need that, and then can hold on to your catalog and either sell it if you want to, or just collect everything on it. So it's a real toss-up based on the personal situation.
Is that a popular topic for producer-songwriters? So I know a lot of artists talk about, it's a popular topic. Do I sign? Do I stay independent? Is that a popular talking point amongst some of your peers? Like, do we do publishing deal, or do we stay independent, collect on it, or sell it off?
Yeah, I mean, the artists are always talking about it from a perspective of label deals, right? Usually it's about like, them signing their masters away. We don't have that problem, but yeah, we're definitely, it's usually a popular discussion in the studio. And what's really interesting is it's never like it's not tied to your trajectory as a writer or as a producer. You've got guys that are smashing it that are now completely independent and want to be because they've got a great network for collections set up, or maybe they've got an admin deal with a major publisher where they're not giving away a huge share of their creative rights. They're just charging them a sort of 10 to 15% admin fee off the top. Yeah, definitely popular, definitely something that's always discussed, and just an immensely personal decision because it's just based on what do I have? What do I need more of? Do I need more sessions? Do I need more access to network, or am I able to create that for myself? Do I need more money, or am I able to create that for myself? And then it's a real toss up.
You've had a couple publishers that have come to you so far, and didn't take them. Is that correct?
Yep.
Why not?
At the time, it didn't make sense. It's either there was a few different offers, and it's either not enough monies for it to make sense for me to give up that amount of what I believe I'm building, or just the other thing is sometimes you can be a small fish in a big pond. If you're signed to a huge major publisher, they've got a huge roster. You'll definitely get some creative support, but I also know from a lot of experience that it can tail off after a few months, and then you're kind of left in a similar situation to where you were before. So I think it's really about the relationship you have with that publisher, and also understanding that teams can change. Like you can sign to a specific kind of rep at your publishing company, and it will be great for a while, and then they move jobs, and then you're put in with the next geezer or the next person, whoever they've tried to employ, and they're not so into you, or they don't really understand your sonic so much, or they're not working with that set of artists, and then suddenly your session just really tail off and you're kind of back to square one, but with 50% less of your catalog. So it's just a real toss up, and I don't feel like I found that match yet. There are a few really great indie publishers over here that really do put in the work creatively and really have like helped blossom some careers that are definitely worth considering. But yeah, that's just been my experience.
How often are you writing with new people outside of your primary network? How often does someone new come into the mix?
Pretty often.
Pretty often.
Yeah, usually at least once a week. Often, wow. Because it'll often be that I have a pretty big network, but a kind of repeat network. Like a lot of the writers are coming in and out of sessions that I'm doing with artists just because I know they're going to do a great job, and we have a great bonds. We kind of know how to run the session. But equally, the artist may have someone they've loved to work with, or the artist team want to try a different writer because they want to try a different sound, and then someone else will get brought into the room. And it's always fine. Sometimes that's the best way that I suppose that's the most frequent way that I've met new collaborators. And then they've kind of stayed in my creative endeavors from that. We'll work together on that project. And then if I feel they're a fit, I'll bring them in on something else. Equally, they'll do the same for me. They'll bring me in on a project they're working. That's why I just feel like songwriters in general for a producer is such a valuable network to have.
Yes. For someone listening, probably would be a good little self-audit to do.
Yeah.
How many good writers do I have in my network right now? Some of them could be clients too, but like that crossover could happen. But hey, everybody, real quick interruption. I hope that you are enjoying this interview. Just wanted to mention that Aaron and I have a private network of working producers and songwriters building sustainable careers in the music industry. We launched it back in February, and it's developed into something pretty special. So if you need some one-to-one help with this stuff and also want a group of really good people around you, then check the links in the description below. Back to the video. I remember when we moved to the production team to Nashville, and at the beginning, my guys would like kind of say yes to every co-write and write with everybody. And then over time sort of whittle that down. Like, how do you kind of choose like who to, cause obviously we don't have enough time to write a gazillion songs a day with every single person that wants to write.
Yep.
How do you choose?
First of all, it's the music. I'm not looking at how the cuts that I've had is not often the biggest decider for me. It's just how well do I think we're going to get along creatively. Like for me, working with a songwriter just to build an asset is a collaborative endeavor, right? You're putting both your times together to try and build something. So for me, it's definitely about the music first and foremost. And a lot of the songwriters will send me kind of their just pitch decks or snippets of their catalog that they're appropriate for me or whatever I've been working on recently. And that's my biggest decider. Then a lot of the times I'm not the one choosing. Like I'm a songwriter's being brought into a session that I'm doing, or I'm brought into a session where there's new songwriters, and then now they're in my network. So now it's a case of, okay, cool. Like I've got a session with X person. Oh, I think these two would be great. Let's set them up, see if they're free. Oh, one's not free. How about this person? Amazing. Cool. Let's do it. And so, yeah, sometimes it's twofold, I suppose, in that sense.
It's down to availability sometimes.
Yeah. Nature of the world, I think, nature of the game.
Yeah. You said something important that, because I think a lot of people would tend to, oh, well, this person has had bigger cuts before. That's who I want to be in the room with more often. But it sounds like what you're saying is like, not necessarily. That's not the main deciding factor. It's more of what you think you guys can create together. Yeah. Chemistry wise.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it takes experiencing big sessions and then not working for you to really understand like that. You can put a bunch of big hitters together and yeah, you'll get something cool, but will you get something amazing? I don't know. It depends how well the bunch of people get together. There really is something for combining chemistry with skills. Like you really do need the mix of personalities to work to then for everyone's kind of skill set to really match. Otherwise you just won't get the best out of the room. And it's also just about another thing that does come with guys that are really, really great and have been doing it for a while is they just understand how to read the room and then when to draw back on some things, when to contribute. And they're usually far more effective rooms. But I suppose I'm already talking about a higher niche of songwriters than you have initially when you're starting out. But something I advise all the guys that I chat to as well is just not to judge writers purely based on their cuts, as we ask them not to purely judge them on your cuts. It's like just judge them on the sonic. If there is really something great about what they're doing, then you're catching them an amazing point, because if they are that great, they're going to go on and do big things. So it's just remember why you make music, and it's because of the music. So follow that.
So speaking of making friends, obviously, like you help our guys with going out and networking and building their network of our songwriters and all that at the start, for their portfolio and catalog and all that. What networking advice are you giving to them to go meet songwriters? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it again varies based on where they are. If they're looking to do things purely remotely, then I'm looking at using socials to their biggest advantage. Songwriters always need collaborations, right? They get money from publishing mostly on the back end, so therefore need great records to get things cut and to get things moving for them. And so they're usually all about the record. So a great way that I've found that works is you build a bank of song starters, which are like beats that are not quite fleshed out. They've got probably intro, verse, pre, hook, repeat, and there's some variation, some progression, something nice about them. And it's key that it's not too finished, because you want a collaborator to feel part of the process. So it's clear that it should be pretty early on, but there should be enough there to excite someone. And then I just often encourage them to use Spotify to go through and find artists they like, to look at the credits and see who's writing those records, and then crucially see who those writers are developing. Now, they're usually smaller artists that are, if they're in with the bigger writers, they've got a little bit of buzz about them. They've got something about them. They're probably really good. And then you want to see who those artists are also collaborating with on the writer side that are kind of smaller and early on. Because that's a great way to just get heard initially. Like you're not shooting for the stars. You're shooting for someone that you genuinely like, because they've worked on records in tandem to what you're listening to. And then just a simple DM on Instagram or something, providing it's genuine and you do really like what they've worked on, and just say, hey, like you'd love to collaborate, and send them a link to these starters. I try to reduce friction as much as I can. So there's always the link in the message. In the title, there's always the song title, the producer, the BPM, and the key. So there's zero friction as to, they don't need to ask you for anything else. They can download it. They know what key it is. They know what BPM it is. They can throw it in their DAW and just get writing. And then just drop your email or another way to contact you underneath it in the message. And oftentimes, if it's good, you're going to get responses, because songwriters want to collaborate. So it's a great way for guys that need to work remotely, can work remotely. And
one thing I wanted to ask about, you said something about find the songwriters they're developing. So you said something about that. I missed that part of it.
Sure. So I'll start from scratch on that bit. So go from into Spotify, find a song that you like, whatever it is. See who's written that song. Now find the artist that writer is developing. So you can do that by using Jackster, All Credits, whatever, or even I use my PRO, like PRS, the back end of that. You can see who's written on everything. So then see who else that big writer is writing for that are kind of earlier on in their artist career.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, using the PRO, that's smart.
Yeah, I did that a lot. Sure. Yeah, because credits get lost, but your PRO will tell you exactly who's done what, and then crucially you see who is also writing for that smaller artist that's got a good enough buzz because these bigger writers are working on the project, but are not there yet, where they're not out of unreachable, but it's a little harder for you as an up and coming producer to reach them. So it's a far easier jump to make to get to those people who are also developing this cool artist, providing you like them. Like, it has to be genuine. You're not just trying to do it to hop on projects, because people will see through it, and the music has to be a match. But a lot of the guys that I'm working with they're great. They can definitely get the records. So it's just about showing them that they don't need to be in the city to do that. But equally, if you are in the city, there's then loads of opportunities to do it in person as well. And it's just about then kind of interpersonal skills and having the confidence to just be like, hey, like I do this, would love to work. And here's a way to check me out.
Yeah, I love what you said too when we were doing a live stream with the producers that we're working with. Someone asked about networking, and you're like, reach out to them how you'd want someone to reach out to you. So simple, but effective, network with people how you would want to be networked with.
Yeah, I've had it a few times where people are very apprehensive, and they're like, oh, I don't want to come off as beggy. I don't want them to feel like I'm using them. And I'm like, hey, you guys need each other. Like, this is how collaboration works. Like, you're the producer, they're the writer. You both need to work. So just really spend some time thinking about how you would want to receive a message from a collaborator that you'd want to work with, and don't rush through it. Like, spend some time and sit on it, because then you're going to be more comfortable with the rejection if it happens, knowing that you did it in a way where it was comfortable for you to receive, than if you kind of rushed into it and then you can be like, oh, I did this part wrong, or I wish I did this bit different. And it'll also get you comfortable with rejection, like, hey, it's going to happen. And that's fine. And sometimes people are too busy to look at their emails or their DMs. Yeah. And even if they are, maybe they opened it and then they got a call and then they flicked off it, and then they're never going to see the link. Like, there's all sorts that are going to happen. So make sure the quality's there, make sure it's genuine and sincere. And then it's about a numbers game, really.
Would you follow up?
If it's someone I really liked and think would really work, then yeah, sure, why not? Like, as long as I'm not being too invasive, it's just a nice little follow-up message. Just to be like, hey, like, I really think we could be on some gold here. Like, we'd love to work or something.
You know what I'm going to say? I'll be following up with that voice DM, baby.
Yeah, for sure.
The curiosity is too strong. The only way someone's not listening to a voice DM is if they just straight up legit just never see it. Like, it gets thrown in some folder.
Yep. The curiosity thing is very interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I'm way more likely to hit play on a voice message than.
I mean, unless I could immediately see it some scam account or something, but like, dude, I don't think I've ever gotten a voice DM and not hit play on it.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
Hopefully the marketers don't figure that out.
Yeah, great.
The marketers probably wouldn't be willing to do it, but.
That's the other thing. I suppose it can it definitely will tick the sincerity box.
Yeah, you know me. I just don't like typing.
Yeah.
So I think it's a cool. Our guys use it all the time. It's
Yeah.
I don't know. It's more human to me. I think it's cool. I know some people were nervous about it, and like there will be a couple that you like fuck up and you remove your thumb and it sends it, and you're just like, well, shit.
That happened. No.
Depending on what platform, you can delete them, but.
I think I'm very comfortable typing, and I'm just very quick that I do write the message before I've thought much into it. But yeah, there is a lot of value in, especially on a follow up. I agree there, especially on a follow up.
I just think it's a Hail Mary anyway, so like might as well.
Yeah.
You know. You guys be like, hey, hope I'm not overstepping any boundaries in the voice text, but like blah blah blah, you know.
Yeah.
To be cool about it. One of our guys sent me he sends me videos messages, which I love.
Old.
I mean, we know each other already, but
yeah,
it's always a nice touch.
Yeah.
I probably won't forget his name.
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
and that's also what you want to do. You want to stand out in a really positive way. So it's a great way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe not for first point of contact. I don't know. Maybe.
Sure,
but
that'd be intense. Yeah. Also, too, like if you're sending it, like you're talking about Instagram earlier, like. We talk about this in some of the videos and stuff. And with our guys, like you don't have to be a big content creator influencer or anything right out of the gate, but like keep in mind that like the first thing I do when I get a message is I look at who the hell is sending me the message.
Yeah.
And if it's just like some anonymous looking account, which I know with like the younger cats, like some of the anonymous thing could be cool or whatever. It's like, all right, fine, but you better really pull it off. Yep. You know, if you're going to do the anonymous thing and not have your face out front, where some trust is going to be built, then like it better be cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, like the point being, think of it like a dating profile, right? Like the more like clear and better it looks and I can check stuff out, the more likely I am to like swipe right versus if I'm on a dating profile or app and it's like a blank picture and it's like, okay, that person might be the coolest, most beautiful person in the world. But like, I don't know. We're never going to get to that point because, first impression is so important. So it's just, we call it like priming your profiles, removing just dumb bullshit if you had it, and
what's interesting is your first impression with a lot of people is going to be your social profile. And often people overlook that because it's just a kind of history of highlights of what they've done, but are not reviewing it from their kind of current state of mind and not looking at it from their kind of current up-to-date consciousness to be like, hey, how does this reflect me now? And I know I did that recently. It was like, oh, there's definitely things I want to change. And that's great. It just means you're growing, means you're improving.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope that you enjoyed that interview. And if you like more long form conversations like this one, then here's another one for you to watch. Peace out.